right, with this episode, we're going to be talking about the Marvel movie, The Eternals, which I think, Chip, you were the only one to see it in the theater of us.
Yep. I went saw it in theater, but it was just released on Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
You, Sarah, what did you think of it? Be honest.
I could have not watched it and been just fine. Like, really, there's so much of it that I was just like, why is this happening? Why did this need to happen? And why is it so dang long? Like, why is all of this? And there's too much of like bullshit that didn't feed the story, the generalized story. And then like 2 extra credit scenes. Like I had to sit through 2 credit sequences in order to see both of these bullshit scenes, which I mean, I'm just like, why is all of this?
And they were cut. There's actual other scenes that are on there that were cut. So they had even more scenes of extra scenes, not just, I'm sure there was stuff cut out of the movie, you could tell by watching it, but there was additional cut scenes that were cut.
You know, what's really nice is if you watch an MC movie or any movie with extra scenes that's on like Stars or, you know, one of those channels, as soon as they start rolling the credits, they just jump to those 2 scenes so they can show them full screen, and then they go and show the actual credits in small screen while they start the next movie. And it's like, oh, that's nice. Wish you could do that in the movie theater and I wouldn't have to sit here the whole time.
Yeah, because, you know, I used to work in a movie theater. We freaking hate it when people would sit for the whole credits. It's like, why? And even if there's not a scene at the end, that fucking sucks because you have no time to clean the whole theater. Yeah, you can't
clean the theater before more people come in to sit down.
I never thought of that.
It's ridiculous.
I never thought of that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Chip, what did you think of it?
I thought it was mediocre at best. I thought they ruined the Eternals as they are in the comic books. Icarus would never, that they ruined Icarus's motivations. He would not have been like that. And then the other thing that killed me is the most interesting ones, which were really Thanos, Kingo, and Gilgamesh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I thought those guys were really interesting, especially Kingo, because I love God, I can never pronounce his name. Kamani. You know, he was in Silicon Valley. He's been The Big Sick, which is a great movie on Amazon, and he wrote it. Him and his wife wrote it. They were the most interesting characters, and there was nothing about them. All we saw is stupid Sprite, which everybody figured out, oh, it's Pinocchio, the boy who can't grow up, whatever. And then we have Cersei, who's like the most, like, you know, cardboard superhero ever.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and then we concentrate on all of them and we don't even talk about the interesting people.
And then Thena, and it's just like at some point she's going to lose her marbles.
I'm sorry. The most cardboard character in the movie was Angelina Jolie. I mean, let's be honest. I mean,
yeah.
But I mean, I just obviously I'm not a fan.
I didn't hate this movie, but I did. That's because I didn't have any feelings.
I didn't hate it, but I mean,
but you know what I mean.
There's crazy long.
There was just
it was way too long.
It was way too long. It was way. There was not character development. I didn't care about anybody. So when things happened to them, I mean, when what's her character's name? I can't think of when she dies. When Selma Hayek's character.
Ajax.
Oh, Ajax, yeah.
Yeah.
It's totally different in the comics. So.
You know, and I've never read these. I've read the first 2 of which.
So it was originally a Jack Kirby. It was basically Jack Kirby redoing the New Gods for Marvel Comics. And initially it wasn't supposed to be part of the bigger Marvel universe. It was supposed to be like a side. And then like I think it's like issue 4 or 5, some Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. pop up in it, so it becomes part of the bigger universe.
I empathized more with the freaking deviants than I did with the
Right, the
Eternals.
deviants were all wrong. The
Yeah.
deviants were all wrong. They weren't.
It's like, why that they were created that way? They found a way to evolve, and they were trying to stop
But-
from being murdered, and all of a sudden, like, that's a horrifying bad thing. They couldn't have just said, hey man, we're trying to stop everybody from being murdered too, let's do this. That one guy had like a couple eyes and was like talking to him, and I'm like,
he was
just
evolving because he had
please.
yeah. See, the thing in the comic books is the deviants were they were like humanoid. They just looked really weird, or they would, be all, and they are the same genetic line. There's the Eternals and the deviants. There's just like a genetic difference, because in the comic books, the reason that Thanos looks like he is because he's an Eternal, but the deviant gene was came out in him and made him look like that. That's why his brother is Star Fox and looks totally normal. But they're Eternals. They're not androids made by the Celestials. So how does that make any sense?
Yeah, I was confused by that too, because I thought that they were actual, like, just beings and not
beings. Yeah, they're like superior, because there was like the deviants, the Eternals, and the human race. And what they didn't want to do is they didn't want to say the Celestials made the human race, because they did in the comic books.
But like, how does that, like, in the comic books, when they're on the worlds that are basically creating the birth of these Celestials, do they die when it creates, or they just zap off into a different books? Okay.
The Celestials being in the planets or birthed out of planets is not part of the comic books. It is later on. It's retconned into a thing called Earth X, which is where they got that idea. But that's not, and that's why Galactus eats planet.
Right. I have read some of Earth X.
Because he eats the planets, because that way the Celestials won't take over everything. So he stops them from being born. That's why he eats the planets.
Well,
okay.
Well, I mean,
that's all a retcon thing in a totally separate.
Why would they choose to do that here? Because the Earth had to be in peril.
This is the thing. Just we shouldn't question it, because they have a bigger plan, and we'll eventually see what it is. I mean, they've proven that with the last 20 movies.
Well, they just wanted to bring Harry Styles in.
See, now I had a problem that they should have.
That makes no sense, though.
But the thing is, that should have said at the beginning, warning, Harry Styles is in this movie.
I mean, Harry Styles doesn't bother me that much.
I was shocked, because I didn't know he was.
I wasn't prepared.
And I was like, huh? Well, but your text before I actually watched it, I was like, oh, God, what's he talking about? And then when he shows up, I was like, are you shitting me? So it was a lot of people, and it seemed to be a movie. Some of the acting I didn't think was that good. It had a lot of it was people in front of green screens, and it was a whole lot of CGI. And there
was a lot of funny quips. It was a lot of like little jokester jokes, and you didn't really get any depth with anybody.
I mean, like I said, I never got attached to anybody in this movie, and there was a lot of it kind of followed the same thing. Hey, here's a new character. Hey, here's more exposition. It was just like a whole lot of exposition. And then they would have a new character, and then that character would have to bring in some. And it was just like, I was trying to figure out what's the plan behind this movie?
Yeah, there's a lot of, one thing they're saying is, and I mean, a lot of this is speculation, is that a lot of the future of the MCU is going to be the outer space, the cosmic Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll have more Eternals. That's why they're bringing in Star Fox. I thought Pip the Troll was great, because Pip the Troll, if you've read Jim Starlin's Warlock series, Pip the Troll's all over it, and he's really funny. But it's funny, and to have Patton Oswalt do the voice of Pip the Troll is that's perfect. That is like literally perfect casting. But yeah, I mean, when that came up at the end, I was like, yeah, okay, that sounds fine, whatever. Because at this point, I mean, I don't really care. And then there was the scene, I forgot about it, just seeing.
I was going to ask you about that. So the very end, they had that guy that was in Game of Thrones,
Right, and he's going to
with
be
a
the Black
sword.
Knight.
Black
The
Knight.
Black Knight. Okay.
The ebony blade, which will make him the Black Knight, which is the blade that's Merlin. It's some sort of black magic blade of Merlin's. So that'll give him the power of the Black Knight. And the person talking to him is the guy who's going to play Blade. So that was Blade.
So the actual sword itself is called Blade?
No, the guy who says, do you think
Okay.
that's a good idea? Or are you sure you want to do that? You hear the voice off.
Oh, off to the side.
Vampire. He's a vampire.
Like Blade. Oh, like Blade.
They're going to be
Blade.
redoing that.
Yay.
Yeah, with Mahershala Ali is going to be Blade.
So what is his connection to the Black Knight? I've never.
There was some team up of them in the comic books that I don't remember. So.
And what's their connection to the Eternals? Like all of a sudden he's the
there's
boyfriend
no
of the...
connection to them in the Eternals
him in
comic
there.
book. They just slapped that on. They just said, "Hey, let's put this guy in here, and he can be that'd be great."
Hey, you're dating this guy that we need to pull into the MCU.
Yeah.
That was basically the way that they did it.
One thing about the Eternals, the Eternals, the original Jack Kirby comics were a little bit crazy. They were, Jack Kirby's 70s come back to Marvel comics were all a little bit weird, but they were good and it was some decent groundwork. And then, they did a few limited series arcs with them that were mediocre, but Neil Gaiman did a 5 or 6 issue arc.
I've read 2 of those
in the early 2000s that are really, really, it's a really good story arc.
It seemed like they were trying to use some of that. Like I said, I've only run that as a basis for this.
They use some of it, and once again, Pip is screwing everything up. So she's still mad, but Pip's a boy in the comic, and
I was wondering about that because I was like, that's such an interesting because obviously it's a female.
Well, it's not Pinocchio. It's what's the name?
It's
the vampire. What's the vampire? Kirsten Dunst played her. She never could grow up. She was
exactly. Yeah. And it was an interview with a vampire and all. And I can't remember her name.
Claudia.
I don't know.
Claudia. Yeah.
Okay.
It's funny.
So she's meant to be her.
Because I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, they just, because in those books, that's a great idea and but in this, it really was kind of like, really? It's not the same.
Yeah.
I thought that was a little bit of shoehorned in. It didn't feel.
I couldn't get over her messed up haircut. Like I just couldn't over it. Like she never changed it.
Right.
Like what is that? Right. Like at some point, somebody's gonna go, "You look fucking crazy. Do something with that hair, girl." Nobody said anything to her about that. It was
like a pixie.
Haircut.
Sort of a pixie.
Well, her name is Pip, so maybe it's a pixie cut.
She looked like
but we don't have to worry about that because
drugs.
At the end, Cersei used the power cosmic to turn Pip into a human. What?
Yeah.
What?
Well, here's the thing. It didn't feel like a Marvel movie. It didn't feel like a Marvel movie to me.
No.
I mean, and it didn't. They shoehorned the whole conversation at the table. Hey, who's gonna run the Avengers? Just like to try to make it, and then I know that hey, Starfire is Thanos' brother. I mean, but that didn't come in really.
But is he really going to be that here? Like, is he ultimately going to continue that original character line here?
Well,
because he's going after the Celestials now.
He said I'm not the only burdened with this knowledge. Remember that when he was explaining why he did the, why he wanted to have the half people gone. And then also there's speculation that Thanos isn't as bad, still bad, but isn't as bad because he's trying to not cut down the universe because then the Eternals, you're not going to blow the whole thing up.
Oh, yeah, they're trying to say that part of the reason he did that was to stop the Eternals or the
so they could
Celestials.
Or the Celestial, where it would, basically.
Now they're coming back with that now.
Planet, it would basically.
But the thing is Star Fox is a problematic character in the Marvel universe because he's also known as Eros. and he can control. He has pheromones and can control women's emotions specifically.
Oh, that's why they
And
put
he
Harry Styles in there.
Literally in the comic book, he was tried for like rape or something, and like
Lord.
She-Hulk defended him. Yeah, I mean, like, why do you want to bring
Well,
this?
maybe that's what's going to happen on the
Over the
She-Hulk.
hills.
Maybe the She-Hulk TV show. That's what they'll have. They'll have that as.
That sounds like a great storyline. Woo!
No,
Doesn't sound very problematic. I'm sure they're
No, it sounds
not walking in a mine.
sounds smart for Disney to go down that
We're not
road.
walking in a mine.
Yeah, I mean, I bet he won't have that power at all in the MCU.
So
Or just women will be strangely attracted to him because he's Harry Styles.
Well, it's like Axe body spray. It's like Axe body spray. So he could get body spray.
Yeah, that's what men believed in like the 90s, isn't it? Mm-hmm. My favorite character in the whole thing was the producer from Bollywood. I loved him the most. I liked him. He was fun. He was a human being, and he had depth to him, even though they didn't give him a lot. But he definitely for me was something that I could grab onto in the whole thing, because everything else was just like ha ha ha, ooh, action, somebody died. Oh, don't we feel bad? No, we don't.
CGI fight. Yeah.
It was just a whole bunch of, and then, oh, now you're a real boy. It's just like, why? I'm not strong enough, but I believe in myself.
But why would you believe in yourself? You're not even a real person. You're an android.
Yeah, all of a sudden. Yeah.
Yeah, that was, yeah. I still am kind of baffled in how this is going to fit into the next. I mean,
they're just gonna shove it right in there and twist it around.
There's got to be. I mean, like, they've got to be bringing in. Well, one thing is they're saying that the Fantastic Four will probably have something to do with Galactus when they bring. So maybe the Silver Surfer will be in there, and then that'll bring more of the Marvel Cosmic, and then they can deal with the Eternals more. Who knows? I mean, it'll be. We're 12 to 13 movies away from figuring out what all this meant. You know what I mean?
So I'm full on, now that I know that the voice in the side was Blade, like the Blade.
That's good.
I'm all for, like, I am pro this movie. I'm happy they made it. If this is the piece of crap they had to make in order to bring Blade back, I'm in.
Well, I'm good now. Black Knight's going to be a movie, correct?
I don't know about that.
And is Blade a movie or a TV show? I think it's a movie.
Blade's going to be a movie.
Black Knight was supposed to be a movie as well. I originally, when he was first announced, I'm almost positive it was, because I don't think because he was announced fairly early. I mean, well, not relative.
He was announced the same time as Moon Knight and all of that was announced, but they hadn't. They did say they said he was playing that character, but see, they already had contracts with him because he was the bad guy in the first season of Luke Cage. So they already had contracts with the actor, so they already knew.
Oh, right. Oh, I got to say, right. I thought we were talking about. I thought we were talking about the what's his name?
Black Knight. I don't know.
From Game of Thrones. I can't think of his name. No, I got what you're saying.
You know nothing.
No, nothing.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Mm-hmm. Whatever that guy is, whatever his actor's name is.
I'm trying to see if it is supposed to be Loki, Echo, Agatha, Spider-Man Freshman Year, Marvel Zombies. But they've already announced Moon Knight too, right?
Yeah. In fact.
Yeah. The trailer came out today.
Yeah, it's coming out on. They're gonna play it on.
There it is. They're gonna play it. WandaVision, and then What If, Hawkeye, Moon Knight, She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, Secret Invasion, Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, Ironheart, Armor Wars, and an Untitled Wakanda series. All right, so those are all the ones that are coming out in the next couple of years. And Blade, so Blade must be a movie. And I tell you, I am not excited to see the Echo show now that I realize who the Echo character was, because I hated her in Hawkeye. That was terrible. if you read the original Echo, was so much cooler than that.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the weaker parts of.
And Echo's great. And the thing is Bendis, created Echo in the Secret Avengers or in Daredevil. In Daredevil, brought her into brought her into the new Avengers, and then spun her into the Moon Knight, his Moon Knight arc, and he killed her in that. And everybody got mad. And he's like, "Hey, I invented the character. I can kill him whenever I want." But yeah, she was really cool. David Mack was the one that drew a lot of those Echo Echo comics.
The Daredevil ones.
In the Daredevil, yeah.
The Bendis run on Daredevil was really good.
Yeah, I own it. I haven't read it. I haven't read the Frank Miller run on Daredevil. I mean, I've read bits and pieces, but not the whole thing.
Well, it's older, so it's more episodic.
Yeah, I mean, the Frank Miller reads a lot.
Didn't Brubaker also do some?
Yeah, he came in after, he took it over after Bendis left.
All of his stuff's good. He's one of my favorites.
Best thing Brubaker did.
I think we gave it all a mediocre, a very loud mediocre.
You watch it when you get bored and you got a chance, because it'll connect to the other MCU movies, but in the long run.
It's like 2.5 hours long.
It's really long.
Just fast forward to the very last end of credit scene so you can hear Blade's voice, and that's all you need.
Just go to Harry Styles. And
I mean, it could have been a member for BTS for all I care. I wouldn't.
Now there was a BTS reference in the movie. That was another one where I was like,
there was.
Yes.
There was?
Oh.
Yes, there is a BT. The guy we were just talking about, the one from Bollywood.
Kingo.
He says something about BTS, and then they play a BTS song.
Oh, okay.
So something about, and I was like, okay, this movie's not. I'm not the intended audience. You're putting BTS in the. I am not who you're after. It looked to me like they were. If you step back, it looked to me like they were trying to grab even more of the world market, and purposely, do some of that stuff. That's kind of what I kind of felt that, but it was just too much.
Yeah.
It should have been pared down, and there should have been some character development and
a centralized focus, like.
Yeah, I mean, instead of. I've got to come to. You got to believe in yourself. It was like the school special.
You can do it.
Like she's doubting herself. Now she doesn't doubt herself. Yay! I was just kind of like,
yes.
Really, man.
Wonder Twins unite.
Hey, but let's talk. I can tell you a couple things I'm really excited about that are coming out, and some stuff that I've read that's been really good. The Sandman TV series on Netflix looks really amazing. Right. The actors that they've
when is that coming out?
Looks pretty sometime this year.
Ooh.
And I've been rereading the Sandman, the whole series, the comic series, and I'm just blown away by how good it is, how good it's written. Some of the art. I'll be honest with you, I'm not the audience for the Vertigo art.
Right.
The Vertigo comics art, most of those guys, unless it's Craig P. Russell, for some reason I think him and Neil Gaiman just go together perfectly. I'm not a big fan, but the stories are just amazing, and they don't really have that much to do. That's the thing. When they're making Sandman, there's only so much they're going to be able to do with the actual comics, because there's a whole bunch of comics where you read a whole arc and Sandman's like at the beginning of it, he pops up in the middle to push something in the story, and then he shows up at the end to tie it all together. But other than that, he's not even part of the story, So
the Audible, I finally listened to the first one. It's very good. Now it makes me want to buy the second one.
Yeah, I listened to the second one. The second one's good.
I just downloaded the second one the other day because I want to listen to both of them before it comes out.
The first one they did a great job with, I thought.
Yeah.
It'll be an interesting adaptation to like live, however they're gonna do it. Like, is it gonna be a cartoon or live action?
No, it's live action. What's his name from Game of Thrones?
That'll be really interesting how they do that.
Yeah.
and what rating it's going to get.
Gwendolyn Christie, you know, the tall woman knight in Game of Thrones, she plays Lucifer.
Really? Oh.
Which will be perfect because Lucifer in the Sandman is like this tall androgynous, like David Bowie type character.
Yeah.
So she should be able to pull that one off perfectly.
She was Chroma, or what was the
Oh yeah, Phasma.
Phasma, that's it. And
yeah, why you even gotta bring that up?
Well, that's actually one of the cooler backstories because her armor is one of the ships. It was melted down one of those ships from the prequels, the silver ships. That's where her armor actually.
The Naboo ships.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So
because Naboo was all craftsmen, and that's why all their ships looked like that, because everything was like hand built.
And that's why, and of course they didn't do anything with that. They shit that away.
Yeah,
because it's actually kind of cool.
Yeah,
the prequels that you're like, oh, that's kind of cool, and then they did.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the whole thing.
Is there anything else that you're excited about that's coming out? Or you, Sarah? Is there anything? I can't think of anything.
So I watched a show. I'm gonna have to look it up real quick. I watched a show on Netflix, and I'd never heard about it before I found it, and then I started to watch it. I'll have to find it.
I'm actually kind of excited about Raised by Wolves, second season.
Oh yeah, season 2. Yeah, man, season 1 went so weird. I'm like, I have no, because like I was like, okay, I got an understanding where this is going. And then when she gave birth to the flying serpent, I was like, what?
You know, and I didn't listen to that podcast. They have a podcast that goes along with it. I listened to the first few, but I didn't get that far on the podcast.
So those podcasts, when they did Chernobyl,
that one was good.
And they did a Chernobyl podcast. The Chernobyl podcasts were amazing.
Yeah, they were great.
Every other podcast they've done to go along with the shows has been mediocre. The Watchmen one was like pretty good because they talked to the actual writer. But Raised by Wolves, they couldn't get those guys to do the podcast with them, so they were just pulling any sort of random
all over,
shit.
and they would talk to like a scientist that could tie it.
Yeah.
They were I agree with you. There were some that were, I was like, well, this is really cool, and there were others that like I'd get midway through and I'd be like, okay, I'm done.
Now, what's interesting is Succession. I don't know if any of you guys watch Succession, and if you haven't, it's a great show to watch.
The only person in America that's not watching that or Yellowstone.
I'm not watching Yellowstone, but I watch Succession.
I'm not watching Yellowstone either.
But the podcast for that was run by Kara Swisher. You know, she used to write for the Wall Street Journal. She's a big tech journalist and everything, and she's really good. I like her. So the only reason I listened to it is because she was hosting it, and it was kind of like the Raised by Wolves. They just got all these random people to come on and talk about like the different, but it was real world, you know, because it's this is finance and companies and all of that. But then the last 2 episodes, or the last episode, she got the showrunner to be on, and that was really good. That was really good. And then of course it ended just like the other season, so it was really good.
You know, there are a bunch of Marvel audio.
Yeah.
You know,
I've listened to the Wolverine, the first Wolverine
one. I knew you'd seen that. That's the only one I've listened to.
There's a second Wolverine one.
There's a second Wolverine one. There's also, they've done a comic based off of that.
Oh, interesting.
But then there's also it's a Peter Quill one. I think it's an Old Man Quill story. I think.
Oh, cool.
Which I'm gonna listen to. I just haven't got.
I mean,
I like all that stuff.
Peter Quill, if you want to talk about the real Peter Quill that's in the comic book, sure.
That's what this is.
Bullshit.
This is Old Man Quill, which is like
based off of the original. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's in crap. I can't think of what it's called. Where they go off. They're in that other. They go off in another universe, and it's like they all get older because Logan's in it. It's like, yeah, it's
okay.
So there's Old Man Logan, there's Old Man Peter Quill. Old Man Logan was the first one. they kind of make some references in the movie Logan. There's a little bit of Easter eggs and some references to it, but it's basically
that I'm gonna have to check out.
Those comics are bad. And the Peter Quill ones were okay too. The Logan ones were probably a little better. Old Man Logan.
Well, I remember the first. Huh?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, sir.
I was gonna say, have you guys heard of the Wu Assassins?
You mentioned that the other day. No, I guess it's a Chinese.
It's a series on Netflix, and to me, the whole thing reads like it would be some kind of graphic novel beforehand. And I obviously haven't researched or anything, but it's about the different Wus or different spirits. So there's like fire, water, earth, all this stuff, and then the Wu assassin has to go and collect these demonic, like has to kill the people that have sucked up those demonic earth powers and collect them in order to like stop something ultimately happening. But it's very interesting. It takes place in San Francisco. There's only one season of it though, and it's from 2019. And what's really fun about it is the actors that are in it. So if you guys remember Braveheart, the Scottish actor that was in Braveheart that had the big scar on his face, he's been in a bunch of stuff where he's been like a bad guy, and he's pretty amazing. And there's nobody else in here that I really recognize. But yeah, it's a good show. I would recommend it. It's only one season from 2019.
Yeah.
Do you know who I'm talking about?
The Scottish guy. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, that looks interesting. I'll give that. Oh, Catherine Winnick's in it. I'll watch it.
Yeah.
The blonde girl that's in it. I love her. She's in Vikings.
Yeah.
She was the mom in the Dark Tower.
Yeah. So there's only one season of it, and obviously it doesn't conclude all his Wu assassin business. But it's interesting to see, and I'm wondering if maybe
they're making a standalone movie that the film will continue the story from the ending of the first season.
Oh, good.
So yeah,
there we go. So the story's
I'll
not
check that out. That's a good. That looks like
and especially if they're gonna do a movie off it, that's even cooler.
Yeah. No, it was a fun watch. It's something I found while I've been sitting here trying not to die from COVID.
You know, when I had COVID, I watched UHF. Do you remember the movie UHF with me and my brother watched it as kids like a million times.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got what's his name? Richardson, the guy that was Kramer.
Yeah, Kramer's in it, and that movie is just I remember watching that. And then I watched that entire, like, all those horrible behind the musics on reels.
I keep meaning to go and finish The Expanse. And
the best of that reels thing is they're all narrated by Dee Snider. And then they do one based on Twisted Sister. And the guitar player from Twisted Sister goes, "What's the difference between the terrorist?"
Eddie Ojea. I never liked them. I just know they're.
But he goes, like, they're interviewing him, and the guy goes, "What's the difference between a terrorist and a lead singer? You can negotiate with a terrorist." And then Dee Snider's like, "Whoa, wait a minute," because he's talking about him. And then I went to sleep, and then I slept for 13. So it just wore me out. So mentally and emotionally, I had to sleep for 13 hours.
That's a good one.
Good luck with that. Yeah, I keep meaning to finish The Expanse. And there are a lot of people that I think I've watched into the third season, but I just know it's one of those I'm gonna get sucked into it, and then I think there's 5 or 6 seasons because it around.
I never even started it.
A lot of people like it, and there's books. I think that's actually where it came from originally. So.
Alone and let me do the job. I'll do everybody's job as long as you leave me alone.
That's how. Yes.
Stop talking to me. I don't like to socialize.
That's my problem. Is I'll do stuff because I'm like, it's easier for me to do.
If I just do it, then it's done, and I don't have to worry about knowing it's done right. So I'll just go do it. Yeah.